Hello, Project Wargaming here with a new video on some Old West stuff. So I did an Old West video quite some time ago. I love Old West gaming. It's one of those periods that I always come back to. But it's also one of those periods that it's sometimes hard to get motivated to do, I guess. So I have gotten motivated. This whole quarantine and everything kind of being closed has definitely afforded me some more time to work on some hobby stuff. And so I have decided to go kind of full bore on to the Old West items. So I thought it would be good to do a video that kind of compares and contrasts three MDF building manufacturers. So Sarissa, 4Ground, and then Knuckledusters, their Gunfighter's Ball. Knuckledusters is American. They're in Illinois, and they can't ship anything currently because of Illinois being shut down. But then Sarissa and 4Ground, I think, are English companies, British companies. So Sarissa is for sure. I'm positive that 4Ground is as well. So it might be a little bit harder to get these models at the moment, but I had ordered them a long time ago. Probably had these sitting in a box for, a good long year, maybe more. So I just wanted to walk through and give you my thoughts and kind of opinions on all three of them. You might find it helpful. They all cost money, so it's always good to think about that. So I guess the first one I'm going to start with is 4Ground. And so you can see here in the background, I have gotten their train set, and their train set is really good, I think. And I like all their models. They come pre-painted, but they take a while to put together. So this is, I think, the train station, and it is like their biggest model. One thing that I think is important for all of these is to kind of talk about the setup and teardown, or how long it takes to put one of these things together. So the big thing with the 4Ground is it takes a while to put them together. See if you can see, this is the instructions they give you, which is okay. While it's pictures and they have things, it is sometimes really hard to kind of figure out which one's which. Now, I'll say that this is probably the most complicated model that they have. So it took almost 3 days working on and off on this thing. I'm an idiot. Maybe it will take you less, but it just seemed to take forever to put this model together. But it's a really good model. Once you got it together, it's together. You don't have to worry about painting it. It comes in these different shapes and sizes, and all of them are kind of there. They look really good once they're put together. Very realistic on the interior. I will say that on some of their models I have seen, they look just a little bit off in their designs. And by that I mean sometimes they don't look like real buildings. Sometimes they look more like fantasy buildings, just the way they're put together. It's not huge on their Old West stuff, and remember, this is all Old West stuff that I'm reviewing. All the other ranges that these folks have, I'm not talking about those. So, but 4Grounds, in my opinion, if you have the money and you have the time, they're worth it. They look really good, and they don't. There's not a lot of stuff to do afterwards. Storing them is a problem, just like any other building. On all of these, I'm probably going to go in and give a wash, just spray a wash on all of them, just to kind of mute them down a little bit and give them a little bit more of a weathered look. But that's the plan. The next one let's review is Sarissa. So Sarissa has been out there for a while. This is kind of one of the models, and this is what the instructions look like. Sarissa doesn't come painted. It comes just in sheets, just like this stuff here. And then it took me a while to figure this out, but what you do is you go ahead and spray paint these while they're in the sprue, or kind of there. So this is window treatments and edging and all that. So you spray paint that stuff, and then you get something that kind of looks like this, or that church in the background, where it is pretty well put together, and all you got to do is worry about doing some highlights once you're there. These buildings are much simpler to put together than FourGround, but that's because they lack the detail when it comes to interior spaces. So here's interior space. It doesn't even have this door modeled on the inside there. So if you wanted that, then you're not going to get that with Sarissa, but you get that with FourGround. But, you know, it takes me all of like a half hour to put one of these buildings together, where it took me a long time to put that together. So I put these two, the church and this store, together probably, both after I got them painted, probably within an hour. I put both of them together. So I enjoy them. I like them, but they're not as detailed. I have tons and tons of stuff over here in this pile that has got building details and such in them that I will fill in a lot of my interior spaces with. So I think that'll help cover up a lot of the lack of detail that Sarissa has. The last one that I wanted to review was Gunfighter's Ball. I haven't put one of these together yet as far as this is gone, but I have put them together in the past and sold them off. They're good buildings. They're obviously MDF, but they come with some pewter windows and doors and such like that. Sometimes those can be a little bit warped and a little tricky to get into the spaces, but it's not terribly hard. And then, of course, all of the MDF stuff is already punched out and everything. So, you know, that's there. It doesn't come with directions, but the online website for Knuckledusters has all of the instructions for all the buildings on there. So these are not hard to put together, and they're not terribly complicated. I would say that they're almost in between Sarissa and FourGround. So it has a little bit more interior space for sure than the Sarissas do, but they come unpainted. So they're like the Sarissa that way. But the other thing that Gunfighter Ball has on their Knuckleduster website is they have some wallpaper stuff that you can actually print off and use for your buildings, which I think is a pretty cool concept and pretty cool thing. As far as I'm concerned, Knuckledusters is pretty much the go-to place for all Old West stuff, either side of the pond. They have a great selection of figures, a great selection of detail pieces, a great selection of buildings. So they're a great place just to kind of do one-stop shopping for sure when it comes to Old West sorts of stuff. I like a variety, so that's why I have multiple buildings. So next thing is kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty when it comes to pricing. So the FourGround building, this building, like I said, is probably their most complicated one, their biggest one. It comes in at $110 right now on their website. Each of the train cars back there, besides the engine, was like $18. They do have a series of buildings that are under construction, which are buildings that are being built, and that's a really cool series, and those are like $30. So they're a little pricey. The Sarissa church and this building here, the church is $28. The building there is $21, and then they have trains, and they're about $18. And then the Gunfighter Ball, their buildings run about $30 a kit. So I like them all. They all have advantages and disadvantages. I'm not going to say that I prefer one or the other. I'm probably going to, have FourGround as like your highlight buildings. Sarissa is filling out the space a little bit more, and Gunfighter Ball is probably that in between. So anyways, that's my thoughts on these three manufacturers. Great stuff, and really enjoying putting it all together. We'll talk to you later.